Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about a new indie film that's directed by the wife of Francis Ford Coppola. And Francis Ford Coppola has worked on tons of great movies over the years. He's well known for The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, Rumblefish, The Outsiders. He's known for tons of films. And his wife is finally making her directorial um, feature film debut as a narrative movie. I think she worked on a documentary for Apocalypse Now way, way back in the day. But this is kind of her first narrative feature film that she's worked on as a director. It's called Paris Can Wait, which is the film I'm going to be reviewing for you today. And in Paris Can Wait, you guys, it's about a wife of a successful film producer. They're always going out to these film festivals every year. The producer, who's played by Alec Baldwin, and the wife is played by Diane Lane. Um, he's in the middle of trying to get this film screened at this film festival. He's working on other projects. He's having a hard time finding the right funding for this current project he's working on after the film festival's done with. And so as they're there, Diane Lane kind of looks like she's been here before, is kind of sick of it now. They've gone to so many film festivals over the course of their marriage, and it gets to the point where as they have to reach a plane to get to the certain destination at one point in time, Diane Lane is running into ear infection problems. She really doesn't want to board the plane. She really doesn't feel comfortable with it after all these ear infection problems are happening with her. But Alec Baldwin's talking to one of his business partners before boarding the plane. He's driving to this film festival by car, and so he asks the friend whose name is Jock. I don't unfortunately know this actor's name too well. I haven't seen him in other films. But this character's name is Jock, and he is driving to this film festival, and so Alec Baldwin is talking to him, and he asks him, is it possible that my wife can get a ride over to this place that we were going to anyway before this film festival, and just wondering if she could join you for this ride, basically. So at first, Alec Baldwin is kind of unsure about doing all of this and everything like that, and of course Diane Lane's kind of in the same situation, but they talk about it. It's one of those things like, this ear infection's pretty bad. I don't want to risk anything. My health comes first. So let me just ride along with this jock guy, see what happens. He seems to know the sights pretty well on the way to Paris. I'll just ride along with him, and we'll meet up with you later, since there's this apartment that the two of them like to go to every time they go out of the country to this film festival and so forth. So Alec Baldwin agrees to this, and he lets his wife and this guy drive off to this place that they're going to meet to anyway. So Jock's showing her all the places. He's showing how beautiful Paris can be, and how beautiful all these places along the road to Paris can be, and how all these good foods, all these good wines. And there's kind of a little hint of a forbidden romance here and there, but the two remain friends. Jock's trying to push for the romance. Diane Lane's really trying to encourage him that she's happy with her marriage, and then they just want to be friends and everything like that. So over the course of this movie, Diane Lane has to get to this place, meet up with Alec Baldwin, without trying to pursue this forbidden romance that this character of Jock really wants to pursue with her while driving to her destination in Paris. So overall, guys, I really wasn't too impressed with this movie. As you can tell, it's kind of a hard movie to sum up, I guess. There's just so many things to really say about it. There's really not a conflict in this movie. That's another big negative I have is, stories have conflicts. Unfortunately, this film really doesn't have one, other than Diane Lane having an ear infection and so forth like that. But for my positives and negatives of Paris Can Wait, I did think the scenery in this film was very beautiful. It's a very beautiful film to look at. The cinematographer must have done a really good job with this movie, because everything looks really good. The places look really good. It looks really beautiful. You definitely get a sense of the beauty of the places leading to Paris and the places in Paris and stuff like that. So very beautiful scenery in this movie. Huge thumbs up to that. I like all the hints of interesting conversation this film has. I want to emphasize the word hint, though, because they do have interesting conversations in this film, like a film like Before Sunrise would have, or Before Midnight would have, where it's almost a feature-length conversation between a romantic love interest of sorts. This film, like I said, it has hints of this. It has hints of things that are interesting to talk about, and things that are interesting to talk about between someone who's married, someone who's not, someone who's kind of still looking for love and all this kind of stuff. So there's hints of interesting conversations, not full-blown ones like I was hoping they were going to have, but there are hints of these interesting things. And like I said before, the cinematography in this film is very good. They definitely captured the beauty of Paris, the beauty of all these places that Diane Lane travels to. She takes photographs of certain things. They definitely did a good job making sure that the cinematography was top notch in this movie. And speaking of photography, I thought the use of photography in this film was very interesting. How Diane Lane would take pictures of things, would try to have interesting hierarchy and rule of thirds in her photos and stuff. And really trying to capture kind of the beauty of these things and these places that her and Jacques drive through as they're trying to get to Paris. So very interesting use of photography in this film. So I thought that aspect of this film was very interesting too. Diane Lane is okay in this role. I definitely think she's had better roles than this movie. Obviously worked with Francis Ford Coppola in The Outsiders and so forth, so she's pretty familiar with the Coppola family probably at this rate. She was fine. I really think a lot of people her age, because I definitely see this is definitely a film that focuses on an older couple for sure. I think a lot of women her age could have taken on this character just as fine. Like I said, not really a signature role for her, not the role I'm going to remember her playing, several years later, but she's okay in the role. I was fine, I understood her reasons behind things, so she did pretty good in this film. Like I said, not an amazing role for her, but she did pretty well. I also like the film's message on making sure that you see the sights of Paris and see the sights of the roads to Paris rather than just flying by it on a plane, because there's just so many things that you can miss out on if you just fly by a place rather than traveling by it and stopping at gas stations and restaurants and hotels. So I like the film's message of make sure to just see the sights too, to walk around and interact with it, not just fly by it. If you just fly by it on a plane, you're really not seeing it the way you really could. For my negatives of this movie, though, unfortunately, it's a very boring film. This is definitely a film where about an hour in, I was kind of checking my watch a lot. Really kind of got bored with it. And my other negative, too, is that it's very repetitive. It definitely repeats the same hotels, the same restaurants, the same wines, the same conversations. It's just very repetitive. It just kind of runs out of things to do after a while. It's also extremely slow paced. This is a very, very slow paced movie. It's only about an hour and 32 minutes, and they definitely make it feel a lot longer than that. It's extremely slow paced. Really didn't like the pacing in this movie. My other negative with this movie is, though I think a lot of people are going to really like this Jock character that Diane Lane travels with, I kind of found him a little annoying and a little predictable with his motivations. I really couldn't get into this character too much. I thought he was just kind of rude and abruptly took phone calls while they were out and about with Diane Lane and stuff. And I don't know. I found him a little annoying. Really couldn't get into this character too well. I also feel like this film isn't romantic enough. It's quite clear that Diane Lane and this Jock character are just friends, but I really feel like they were trying to force and hint and really push for the romance more often than they really had to. Really didn't feel as romantic as it should have. Not really romantic enough. Wasn't too impressed with that aspect of the movie. There's also a lot of unanswered loose ends. There's just so many loose ends in here where they bring up what Diane Lane's daughter is doing, kind of what this producer guy is doing. You kind of find out what he's doing at the end of the film, but not really. There's just so many loose ends that the film just doesn't care to answer. Even the end of the film is just kind of like, okay, what was that about? So overall, a lot of unanswered loose ends that really kind of got on my nerves at the end of the movie. Also, Alec Baldwin's role in this film is extremely short lived. You really only see his character probably for about the first 15 minutes of the movie. So, unfortunately, what you saw in the trailer of his character is really not much more than that. It's really a very short-lived character. You do hear him talk to Diane Lane every once in a while on the phone throughout the movie, but it's a very short-lived role for him. I kind of was invested in his character, to be honest, and it's kind of too bad that it was very short-lived for what it was. So overall, I'm going to give Paris Can Wait a 7 out of 10. It's all right. It's if you rent it at Redbox one day, it's not going to kill you, but I definitely wouldn't say go out of your way to see this one. I really couldn't say that. It's an okay film. Like I said, it's okay as a rental if it kind of catched your interest, like it did with me. It's okay, I guess. It's an okay rental. It's just not really that great. So 7 out of 10. Really can't recommend this movie.